This is the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show as presented to you by the Hillsboro Economic Development Corporation. High school football season gets started for many teams across North Dakota with the season opener on Friday night. We'll have 5 games on YourLiveEvent.com and we'll highlight a couple during the show as well. For upcoming games for football and volleyball in the fall, again, go to our website of YourLiveEvent.com. The rivalry continues from Kindred as the Vikings host the Central Cass Squirrels on Your Live Event on Friday. This week, we'll hear from Central Cass head coach Tommy Butler and first-year head coach for the Kindred Vikings, that is Eric Burgad, taking over for Matt Crane. Followed up with a conversation with Lisbon football as the Broncos open up the year on Friday night on Your Live Event at Northern Cass. We'll have a one-on-one conversation with Lisbon head coach, that is Mark Moss. From there, we'll chat with the defending volleyball champs in North Dakota, both on the eastern side of the state. West Fargo's Sheyenne head coach Leah Newton, freshly inserted off their Class A championship, first in program history last year, and Northern Cass, fresh off of their second in program history last season, also winning it in Bismarck. We'll hear from Angie Jensen from the Jags, and Northern Cass senior spotlight this week comes with their own middle hitter in Josie Jensen. And we'll close out the show with Hillsboro-Central Valley cross-country head coach Kirk Zink and defending boys soccer champ in North Dakota, that's the West Fargo Packers, as we'll have a one-on-one with Matthew Crawford. Now let's kick off the show with some football chat. Here's a conversation with Central Cass head football coach, that's Tommy Butler. Part of our Your Live Event Coaches Show as we continue on the gridiron this time. Join us with the Central Cass Squirrels. That's their head football coach, and Tommy Butler. And Tommy, anytime you get to the month of August, you know that school's around the corner, you know, sports is around the corner, and a lot of other stuff that is associated with athletics and also the school year. But ultimately, when you get to this kind of a year with the season that you had, a great senior class that led you to the Fargo Dome, I know you would want to take a play or two back just like anything else, and there's a myriad of different ways you could go into that Aggie game of what if. But for the guys that came back, for the guys that made that journey to the Fargo Dome, did it hunger them a little bit more here in the offseason to try to get back to where you were last year? Because now you know you're going to have that bullseye on your back for that run that you had to the Dome. Yeah,
I don't know if it really makes us hungrier. I think we've really done a good job here of kind of setting expectations really high. Getting to the Fargo Dome was awesome. Like, not to say that we fully expected to be there. That was, like we're just going through the game saying, hey, wait, we're going to get there for sure. But our guys expect to be in the playoffs. We expect to make a deep run. Last year was the first year that we actually cashed in on that. So I think now, to me, that's a reality. That's now hopefully going to become a normal thing of making deep runs. So I think our guys are ready. The whole bullseye on our back. I mean, we're definitely taking the Georgia mindset. We're not going to be hunted. We're coming to hunt everybody else. We're not looking to see what your best game is. You're going to get our best game. So I think that part has kind of fueled us in that sense of like, we're not going into this season of we're going to take a back seat to anybody. We're looking to try to run the table and be number one seed so we don't have to go travel for 1,000 miles and, play in the Fargo Dome again.
Yeah, take us through this year. Going to be a little bit different in your respective regions, just with some teams moving up, some teams moving down, some teams maybe go to a different region with reclassification. Hillsboro-Central Valley, Mayport, CG, now you'll get to play as region teams. Sargent County's not there no more. Lytton HMB, a team that you had to travel to as well, a little bit different. But at the end of the day, you still got your good old rivals to start the season with in Kindred. 2 teams that played a slobber knocker in the postseason in Kindred as well, Tommy. It's going to be a little bit different with coaches, going to be a little bit different with players, but ultimately, whether it was against Kindred, it's against Oaks, it's against the Beulah Miners. As a coach, what do you want to see come game 1, win, lose, or draw? What's something you want to see from your guys that first game of the season?
For us, it's physicality. We want to be a physical team. We want to make sure that we're getting the ball in space offensively. Defensively, we're an attacking defense. We want to bring pressure. We want guys to play on their heels, and we're trying to dictate the pace as best we can. It doesn't mean it's always going to happen, but that's our goal, is that we want to dictate what you have to do, not the other way around. I think that, again, I think that's something that these guys have kind of gotten into their ingrained in now that that's just normal. That's normal behavior. That's normal thought process, is that we're going to be a physical team. We're going to play really hard defense. And then we have a lot of athletes. So how do we get those guys the ball? And, we have a revamped offensive line, but those guys have the same expectations the guys had last year. We think we have some good, talented running backs that we can run the ball on teams. But, I think that first game is obviously going to be one of the biggest tests that we're going to have all season. And we wouldn't want to play anybody else but those guys.
Hey, take us through some of those athletes that you're mentioning here, Tommy. Who on offense, who on defense, whether it's going to be guys on the boundary that you want to get the ball to that have the speed, maybe who's one or two anchors, so to speak, on that line that they have to bring their game to, maybe as a backup player last year, or maybe they were in the rotation that now they are going to be an every down starter. Who are going to be some of those players on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, obviously, bringing our quarterback back with Braden Mitchell is huge. Again, had a great season in just about every sport. But obviously he's looking to cash in on he texted me a picture of his second place trophy. He said, man, I want nothing more than to replace this with a first place one. So he's going to be a big one for us. Again, just being in the offense for a second year, commanding it, knowing it full, inside and out will be big time for us. We bring back a lot of receivers with Jake Thompson, Peyton Lamar, Chase Bachmeyer. Cale Pearson was a guy that was a rotational guy last year that should get some looks. Carter Maggio is going to be coach or playing tight end. We have Colson Stahl, who's going to mix in with some of those guys. And then in the backfield, we have Isaac Wisniewski. I think he rushed for almost 700 yards last year behind Owen, who's tough, big. He's probably 185 pounds now. So he's a big physical back who's fast. And then we have two younger guys. One's a junior, and Drew Urbach, who's little. He's not very big, but man, I think he's got some of the best vision I've ever seen from a high school kid. And then Colton Crochet, who's a sophomore, who's also not the biggest guy, but he is physical runner. And then our offensive line, we lost 4/5 of our O-line, so we'll bring back one guy in Tyler Crochet, who's coming off an ACL surgery. That was a big loss for us in the state championship game, but it also opened up doors for guys like Evan Wiersma, who was a freshman, who's now going to be a starter. Aiden Wunderlich, who's good, promising tackle, kind of big kid, like 6'5", 6'6", sophomore. Then Braden Klein, who was hurt last year. He had what did he have? He had an avulsion fraction in his knee, so he didn't get to play much. And then Brady Plants, who played for Tyler on defense on our O-line wise. So those guys will be good. We have a couple other spots that we're going to have to mix in with some, like Mitchell Melanders, Jennings Cooning, guys like that, Calvin Piper. Those guys will have to do some stuff of mixing in there. But offensively, we have a lot of talent, a lot of weapons that we can get the ball to. And then defensively, losing a lot of our D linemen is going to be big. All those guys I mentioned are going to play D line, that play O line. We bring back two really good linebackers, and Marcus Bifford and Cade Olsen-Tinglestead, who I think are two of the best. And then, same thing with our DBs. A lot of those receivers are our DB guys. We got guys that'll mix in there, though, or Caden Graber, freaky athlete, but just hasn't got to play. He's been sitting behind Marcus and Cade for a while. So, where does he mix in? Where does he fit in? You got a guy like Nick Dutt, who's same kind of deal. Like he's really kind of transformed his body, plays corner. Can we get him to make that next step? Is he a guy that can rotate in, maybe become a starter? Those types of guys are going to be big for us. And just trying to get, we're big on rotation here. We try to play 30 guys a night. So, you should hear all of those. Hopefully we hear all those guys' names being called, August 18th against Kindred.
The one thing, when you look at returning teams coming back here into the particular region, or maybe just the class itself here, Tommy, this year, take yourself out of it. Who's going to be one or two teams that you go, whether it's region wise or, if you're able to make the playoffs and it's okay, if we match up against them, we know it's going to be a challenging game. Is there anyone that stands out, in the month of August before you kind of get to those dog days of football, so to speak, in early October?
Obviously Kindred to start the year off is huge. They bring back obviously a Division I athlete, And then they get a new quarterback in that's a freaky athlete in his own right. And then they have a talented running back and a couple other guys that are back from last year that got significant playing time. So that'll be a big matchup for us. Oaks is good. I think they bring back the most linemen out of anybody in our league, maybe other than Lisbon. A lot of us though all lost kind of our linemen, so this will be kind of a unique year to see, how does everybody kind of pair up that old line now. But Oaks should be good. Lisbon should be tough. Like you said, not knowing what is, what's Mayport and Hillsboro going to do now with a new coach, and now for Mayport coming up being 11-man. Northern Cass brings back a ton of guys. I think they might bring back the most people out of all of us. So do they make that big jump? And then EEK, they got a quarterback that's got an absolute bazooka for an arm. So I think there's a lot of tough teams in our region. State-wise, obviously, Velvet coming back. I mean, if they're not number one, I don't know what we're doing. But they're going to be tough. Bishop Bryan's got a Division I athlete on their team. Trinity's got some good teams. I mean, they average like 40-some points a game. And then DLB's got their quarterback back, who's a stud too. So, and then I think Beulah brings back some guys, but their offense is just always tough to defend. And then Langdon, obviously, I think Josh Kravachka is one of the best coaches in the state. He does a tremendous job with his guys. You think that they're going to be down every year, and they never are. So, and their quarterback's back, and he's also got a bazooka. So, those guys will be tough. I mean, there's some really tough teams for us, but we're really excited to get another shot to try to run it back and hopefully maybe make it a number one instead of number two.
Final thing for you, Tommy, before we let you go, and I'd like to ask a number of coaches this, no matter what sport it is, when it's early on in the season or even preseason before you kind of get to a golf meet, a volleyball match, or in your case, Friday Night Lights football. But what is the one thing you enjoy most on game days, whether it's at Castleton or somewhere on the road? What is one thing that you just always look forward to come, opening kickoff on a Friday night?
Man, that's a freaking great question. I would say, I think the thing I would look forward to the most is I like the way that we've kind of done some stuff now. We're a lot different than a lot of teams. I mean, our warm-up's probably only 15, 20 minutes long, maximum on the field. So we're pretty short out there, but I just kind of like the vibe that we bring. It's very much, we're going to come in, we're going to get you ready, and then we go play. Here in Castleton, I think the vibe of the kids, the student sections that we have, our parents and fans in our community are crazy. Like they love Central Cass football right now. And so we try to eat that up. We try to do tailgating. We try to do everything to kind of bring our school around. I think we have one of the best announcers in the state with, my guy, Mr. Mark Robinson, who, he gets those Squirrels fans juiced up. So, that the whole atmosphere of playing at home is something special. But, last year doing the whole road thing and bonding with our guys, I mean, that was something that was just so unique, of having 3 overnight trips, just getting to be with the guys in a different sense. We kind of do things a little bit different now too. A lot of guys sit up front with me. I drive the bus, and it kind of became cool to sit up front. So, like now you get older kids that sit up front with you that actually want to talk to you. Like that's fun. That makes it easier for me to drive home, after a game. So like I enjoy those little things, but to me it's playing at home and getting to play in front of our crowd, and then obviously playing in Kindred, that being such a close game, and such a huge rivalry. I would venture it's one of the best in the state, right now. So I can't wait for August 18th.
Hey, Tommy, as always, thanks so much for your time. Best of luck this season, and we'll see you down the line here for our Friday Night Lights football game.
I appreciate you. Cheers. Go Squirrels.
Live, work, and play here in Hillsboro, North Dakota. The Hillsboro Economic Development Committee can assist you with information and support for business and housing. Experience Hillsboro. More at 104.
As we continue on our YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show, joining us now, newly inserted head football coach for the Kindred Vikings, that is Eric Burgad. And Eric, for you, you have been the head coach now for a while, but this is the first time that you're going to be able to call the plays, so to speak, with everything that you want on the sidelines, kind of control practices to how you kind of want to do things with your staff as well. But the nice thing is you've been with this program. So what's the transition been like from you being kind of an assistant coach to now being the head coach so far here, Eric?
Sure. I guess I can't say that there's felt like much of a transition yet. Some administrative things, of course, like, the parent meeting and organizing team meals and all that kind of stuff that leads up to a season, physical forms, all the stuff that I hear head coaches talk about and I hear them dread. So I'm getting to live those things now, which it's all been fine. But football wise, I got to work with Coach Crane for the longest time, since 2014. And we worked so well together, and we created a relationship and a trust that, I've been the defensive coordinator since 2014, and it's always felt like I'm the head coach of that side of the ball. And Coach Crane was great in that regard. So, football wise, hasn't felt that different. Administrative stuff starting to feel a little different.
As we kind of get into the season, you start off with the bang. You got your rival, the Central Cass Squirrels coming into town. And like any other year, a good chunk of seniors have came and went from both programs, but there's still a lot of talent or underclassmen that are going to get their opportunity to starting level. So before we get into the players, before we get into the matchups here, Eric, whether it was Central Cass, whether you're going up against a Bishop Ryan or an Oaks Tornadoes team in that game one of the season, win, lose, or draw, what do you want to see from your team in that opening game here in August?
Yeah, we're in a really unique situation there, just as well as Castleton is, to start with a game that is against your rival. We played 2 games against them last year, and both really good contests. They got one, we got one. And so much of that week one is just like, it's a baseline is what it is. You're not quite sure what you have yet. So, to kind of have that added pressure of it being a region game that counts and a rivalry game, it's a lot. So, our focus going into fall camp would be, just less focus on that Castleton game. We're a really process-driven team, and we know there's things that you got to do throughout fall camp, throughout the summer, to get yourself ready for that week one. So it'll just be, what are those things, identifying those in your culture and your expectations and how you practice, and really trying to focus on that. And then when that August 18th game does come, you hope your kids are ready for it, but trying to slow it down here right now, because that's what people want to talk about. They want to talk about that Castleton game, and for good reason.
Yeah, 100%. Blue or red, everyone wants to know what that first game is going to look like and who has the upper hand early on in the season in Region 1 play. But Eric, for you, it has to be nice coming back, looking at you're not completely quote-unquote bare from a season ago. It's not like you had 11 starters on both sides of the ball and it's brand new guys. You are bringing a handful of players back on offense and defense. One that's going to jump off the page and everyone's been talking about since he's been getting college scholarship offers, it feels like for 10 years for coaches probably going against him, is Riley Sunram, and a guy that just continues to get bigger, a guy that continues to get faster and stronger. So let's start there. What does Riley Sunram, now as a senior, bring to this Kindred Viking football program?
Oh, Riley brings a ton, and Riley's brought a ton since he was a freshman. I remember very specific moments his 9th grade year, just seeing him in some big games and play some meaningful snaps, and you're like, okay, this kid he's the deal. He's going to be a ton of fun to coach. And, talking about the offers that Riley got and all that, Riley worked so hard for all of that. And Riley's in the position now because of his hard work. So he is just a fantastic leader for us. He's arguably the hardest worker on our team. I finished up a soccer practice with my son. He's 5 last night, and I was walking by the game field, and Riley and our other captains, they got the rest of the crew out there, and they're doing extra conditioning before we get into practice on Thursday, and that's not something that I organize. That's something that they organize. So he brings, his leadership and then obviously all of his skill to the table. So he's a tremendous asset for us. He's coachable and he's a good coach too. I mean, the younger kids really gravitate towards him. They know his name. The kids in our elementary school know his name, and he's a fantastic role model for all those kids. And he's willing to talk to our sophomores, to our freshmen, and he's just good for our program.
Eric, continue with some of the other players that are coming in. Who were some on the team last year? I know a lot of folks have talked about, Starcevic coming in from Thompson, just the athlete that he was able to show in multiple sports in Thompson. You bring that kind of athlete to your football program that just, some would say an embarrassment of riches, but like anything else, new position, maybe a new, a little bit of change. He has to find himself and immerse himself into how you guys operate just on a daily basis, whether it's school or the football program itself. But for players that are coming back, who are some others that you're going to rely on, such as a Riley Sunrem, as we talked about earlier, Eric?
Sure. Yeah, we can talk about Jake right out the gate there. We got to play Thompson when it was 2 years ago now, and Jake was a freshman. And I remember preparing for that game, getting ready for it, and watching number 10. He was playing tight end at that time, and I put my entire defensive game plan, around him. It's like, oh, this kid's a dude. He's going to be a really good player. And we played him, and he proved that he was that dude. I think he probably had 10 catches, 150 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. And so you get to see a kid like that as a freshman and, instantly had my respect, instantly had our players' respect, our program's respect. And then he ends up on your team. So that's, a kid that you hold to such high regard and just respect as a football player. And now we're going to get a chance to play with him. That's going to be a really cool deal. And gotten to know Jake a little bit over the summer through workouts and through our summer camp here. And he's doing a really nice job. Similar to Riley, he's a fantastic leader and tireless worker. It's tough to outwork him. And like I said about Riley as well, he's in the position he is because of how hard he works. And Jake's that same way. And we have a lot of other guys that follow suit like that too. You talk about Kylan Swenson, who's played some snaps as a freshman, was a starter as a sophomore on both sides of the football. He's doing a really nice job. He's maybe the toughest kid I've ever coached, and he's having a really nice summer. So, three big ones, three kids that I think are going to be really strong in Region 1, and just to have those guys on your team.
Take us through a Region 1 here, Eric. If I have to take your team out of it, who's going to be one or two tough Friday night lights games, or who's going to be an opportunity where you go into it and you say, this might be a dogfight if we come out with a win, it's going to be a 4-quarter kind of football game. Who kind of stands to mind, whether it's in Region 1 or just on your schedule in general this year?
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of them. And we talked about Central Cass, and I know what kind of program they are. Coach Butler does a fantastic job, along with the rest of their staff. They've really just built themselves and became a really good football squad. Other teams on our schedule. I mean, there's never an easy week. I feel like in Region 1, you're always preparing week to week. Like, this is a team that could clip you. So. We've had some really nice battles with Lisbon in the past. They're always a really gritty team, really tough team, plays a good brand of football, kind of similar to us, the smash mouth, let's run the ball at each other. We like that. They like that. So our kids always really look forward to that game. I look forward to that game. Oaks always has a strong program. When we met them last year, that was a game we were really fired up for, and then they had some injuries, and it wasn't quite the matchup that we thought it was going to be. So I'd assume that they're hungry to play us again, hopefully full strength. I hope they're full strength, but those would be two other games that we're really looking forward to in our schedule. We get to we bring down Mayport CG into our into our region, and we get to go up and play Cavalier. So those are two opponents, that have played 9-man schedules the last couple of years, and I really don't know much about. Other than that, they had a ton of success the last couple of years. You get to watch Cavalier in the dome and see them in the championship game, and you always hear about Cavalier football, right? I mean, they live and breathe football up there. So we get to go up there week 2, that'll be a cool deal for us to go play in a town who has really strong tradition and just a good program.
Final thing for you, Eric, before I let you go, what's your favorite thing about Friday Night Lights as a coach? Is it the road trips? Is it right before kickoff? Maybe a little pregame ritual or routine? Take us through what you enjoy most as a coach on Friday nights.
Well, there's a lot of it. Just as a coach, I really enjoy our staff, and we have a pretty tight-knit group of guys. And some of my favorite parts of Friday night are just those moments before the game where the team's in the locker room and they're doing their thing and they're getting ready and just sitting out on the field and kind of enjoying the night. And we make a joke of it that we drink way too many energy drinks and we just sit out there and we talk about the game. We talk about our scheme, but that's really fun for us. And, it's making those connections with the coaches and the kids. And, in the heat of the game, a lot of those moments really stand out to me too and are really fun, to see a kid make a big third down play and just the feeling that you get when that happens and seeing how your players react in those big situations. Those are things that you remember for a long time. And it's really special for the kids, really special for the coaches and the community. So those are probably the things that I look forward to most and enjoy most about Friday nights.
Eric, thanks so much for your time. Best of luck this season, and congratulations again on being replacing, I should say, Matt Crane, even though not replacing, just coming into his position, and best of luck moving forward throughout the season.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, Chase.
Welcome back to the Your Live Event Coaches Show, brought to you by the Hillsboro Economic Development Commission. I'm Joe Lanso, joined now by Mark Moss, the coach of the Lisbon football team, and we're recording this early in the practice stages. How are things going so far for you?
Good. Yeah, we got good numbers. We got kids that are working real hard, so they're excited about the season. So I'd say the first 2 days of practices have went pretty good.
How many fellows do you have back from last year's team?
So I think when I put down for some previews, I think we have about 6 returning starters on offense and 5 or 6, depending on, how many games they started last year. And so, we got a good number of kids returning.
Okay. Who are some of those fellows that you'll be looking for the Broncos this season?
Well, offensively, we returned most of our skill position players. So, I think we got a pretty good quarterback coming back in Wyatt Olson. We got some good running backs in Mike Nelson and Cam Opp that got a lot of experience last year. And we got some receivers like Blaze Ranke, Jaden Bittner, Lincoln Adair, who are going to be able to go and catch some balls for us. And on the line, that's kind of where we're looking to fill some spots. Sam Kelson was a all-region performer on the offensive line last year. Parker Tapson's a big, strong kid that got a lot of playing time as a sophomore last year, and we got some kids like Drew Anderson, Hunter Lukes, Brant Levis, kids like that are hungry to step in and fill some pretty big shoes. We had some pretty good Bronco football players that graduated last year that are going to be playing in college. So those are some big shoes to fill, and we got some kids that are ready to step up and fill those shoes.
What do you think the strong points of your team will be?
Well, I think our skill position players, whether it's on the offensive or our secondary or on defense, that's kind of going to be the strength and kind of pull those young kids along on the line. But, we have a lot of athletes. And I think our team speed is going to be pretty fast. So I'd say our skill position players and just our overall team speed, I think, are going to be are going to be some of our strong points. We're probably not going to be as big as we've been the last few years, but we still got some pretty big, strong kids. So, but they're just young and they're just inexperienced. So it's going to take a while to get those kids, up to speed. But we do have some pretty good returning players with a lot of experience at some other positions. So
one thing that is a positive of seeing the kids that have moved on to play in college ball is that your younger guys can see just kind of what it takes to be able to be considered for that next level.
Oh, absolutely. And we try to take the kids to a college game each year. So last year, we have a former player that's playing up at UND, so we were able to go up there and get down on the field before the game. And now we got a couple players at NDSCS and in Wahpeton that are playing there. So we'll try to, I'm planning on maybe trying to get over that for a game there and just to see, the speed, the size of these people. But it helps when you practice with kids and then you see them playing at the college level. You feel like, hey, that could be me. I can do that if so and so can do that. So yeah, it's pretty cool to have kids that go on and play at the next level. Makes you proud as a football coach, and it takes a lot of work. And a lot of these kids have put in. It's not just football season; it's summer, it's multiple sports, and to see that success pay off.
It is a commitment.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, football is no longer to show up in preseason and then put the pads on and go out there and think you're going to have success. It's weight room, it's camps, it's all these things now. So it's getting to be a year-round sport. And that you could say that about any sport. It's getting to be more and more of a time commitment.
Mark Moss is the coach of the Lisbon Broncos football team. Where do you see the Broncos ending up in Region 1? Or who do you see as the top teams to beat?
Well, our region, I'd say from top to bottom, I'm sure every region is going to say this, but I'm going to go flat out and say our region is probably the strongest top to bottom in the state. Every game this year, you look at our schedule and you have the teams that everybody's pointing to as the favorites. Kindred is going to be tough again. Central Cass, they were state runners up last year. They bring back a ton of kids. They're two well-coached football teams. So I think, they're probably the odds-on favorite on paper, but there's a bunch of teams kind of nipping right at the bud. I think we're one of those teams that are kind of in that next group. Oaks is going to bring back a lot of good players. Hillsboro, they're new to our region. That's a strong program. And they're going to have a ton of kids out. Mayport CG's coming up into our region from 9-man, and they've had a bunch of success the last few years, and those kids are used to winning. So, and then you have teams like Northern Cass and Allendale Edgeley Combe that were really young last year, but you could tell that they were coming. So it's our region's tough, and I'm but I'd like to think we're in the mix. The top 4 teams make the playoffs, and I'd like to think we're in the mix to be one of those 4 teams, but it's going to take a lot of hard work, and we're going to have to get, come together as a team and get the younger guys up to speed, and the older guys have to use their experience. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be fun. That's why we play.
And the first time you'll be playing will be on the 18th of August, and that is going to be a Friday night over at Northern Cass, and we'll have that game on yourliveevent.com.
Yeah, Northern Cass, and they were a really young team last year. They had a quarterback that was, I think, a sophomore last year that could really sling it, and had some good running backs and some big guys on the line. And yeah, it's going to be a fun game. That was our homecoming game last year, and we kind of had our way with them. So they're gonna want to kind of turn that around on us. So we're gonna have to be ready to go. It's going to be fun. And then we turn around next week. We go to Hillsboro. We played them in the playoffs last year. It was a fun game, a tough game. They got us right at the end, but 2 fun places to play. Really, really nice facilities. 2 well-coached football teams. But yeah, 14 practices before that first game in Northern Cass. It'll be there before we know it. So,
well, we look forward to seeing how the Lisbon Broncos do this coming season. Mark Moss, thanks very much, and best of luck this year.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love coming on here and talking about the Bronco football team. So thanks for having us, and we'll see you. We'll see you before that Northern Cass game.
All right, and we'll have more on the Your Live Event Coaches Show after this.
Hey growers, when working on your water management solutions, call Chad's Excavating out of Mayville. They are your water management contractor, helping you with tile drainage plans, service drainage plans, or both. Remember, water management is a lifetime investment. Call Chad 701-430-0182 to get your water problem solved. For more information, follow Chad's Excavating on Facebook. For tile drainage and service plans, call 701-430-0182. Chad's Excavating out of Mayville, helping farmers grow.
Do you want that new boat? Are you building onto your home? Maybe you want the new camper or ATV. Dakota Heritage Bank can help you. This is Dustin Nagel, president at Dakota Heritage Bank Hillsboro location. You can visit with me or our other loan officers to help with loans and lines of credit from Dakota Heritage Bank. We are serving you with locations in North Dakota and Northwest Minnesota. Dakota Heritage Bank offers financial services you expect with a local perspective. dhbanknd.com. Dakota Heritage Bank, Equal Housing Lender, member FDIC.
There's more at 104. Hillsboro, North Dakota has everything you need on your next road trip. Food, fuel, fun, and family-friendly activities. Stop by and fill up your tank or grab a bite to eat. Have a blast at Goose River Golf Club, the swimming pool, or one of our beautiful parks. There's even ice skating and cross-country skiing. Take in the sights or stay the night so you don't miss a thing. Experience Hillsboro and see why there's more at 104.
As we head into the volleyball portion of the show this week, we had an opportunity to have our senior spotlight with Josie Jensen with Northern Cass and hear from her head coach of the Jags in Angie Johnson as well. That's coming up. But first, our own James Martin sat down with Leah Newton from West Fargo Cheyenne Volleyball to talk about the upcoming season for the Mustangs.
James Martin's Your Live Event Coaches Show. We continue the show this week by chatting with West Fargo Cheyenne head high school volleyball coach Leah Newton. And Leah, quite a wonderful ride last year to the top. First time ever that West Fargo Cheyenne's got a state title in girls volleyball, and first time in over 20 years that a team from West Fargo has gone to the top of the Class A girls volleyball mountain, if you will. First of all, welcome to the program, and kind of take us through that wild ride, especially that championship match against the defending champions, Bismarck Century.
Well, thank you for having me and taking the time to check in with me. Just even hearing you describe that, I have goosebumps right now thinking about it. It was such an amazing season with an amazing group of coaches and players and our volleyball community of parents and families. I mean, it was just, it was awesome. I mean, like I said, I still have goosebumps thinking about it. I think it was something that we'll never forget overall, but even just having that part where we're finishing after midnight and we're riding the bus home and getting home at like 4:30 in the morning. I mean, like all of those things I think are just, add to it. I mean, some people asked, what'd you think about that? I was like, it was awesome. I mean, it was hard to wait, sitting in the gym waiting for it, but I mean, it just adds to that excitement and memory of it.
We're talking a little bit off air that you're the first and so far only coach at West Fargo Cheyenne girls volleyball, head coach at least. Walk me through the moment of finally getting that championship and all the hard work that has paid off. I'm sure it's been a wild ride, not just this last season, but all the years before that.
Yeah, it has. That's a great way to describe it. It has been a wild ride. We've definitely had ups and downs over the years, and to start a program from scratch, to start with freshmen and sophomores and building up and building to that senior group, that first senior group. It was something really cool to be a part of. I know not a lot of people can say that they were there from the very beginning. And I, got to share it with a lot of the coaches that are around or have been in and out with our program, are still around. I think that's such a great thing. But the memories and being in the gym and being a part of that from the get-go, it's just really something cool and something I very much appreciate being a part of.
Let's kind of transition a little bit from last season to this season. Who's coming back? Who are the pieces you're going to rally around? Who are some new faces we might see this year at West Fargo Cheyenne?
So we do have a couple of our middles coming back, and we did graduate 8 seniors this last year. And we have Izzy Albrecht and Maya Blado. They both played middle for us last year and will bring back some experience in that position. We have Mia Engel, who is one of our defensive specialists, a senior, and so she'll be able to help us a little bit in the back row, taking charge back there. And then we're just going to be looking at some of our younger girls. We do have some girls that were on the varsity last year that experienced the state tournament, that are had great summer camps and have been working really hard. We have Alexa Clorence. She'll be working for us, probably playing some outside and right side. We have a couple of younger players that we're looking at with Jada Langless. We've got Peyton Saxland, both returning off the varsity squad. And then, we've got some great young players that have been stepping up over the summer, and we had an opportunity to play a couple of tournaments and trying a bunch of different things out. So we're just excited to see what we have these first few weeks of the season.
And first few weeks of the season, kind of let our listeners know, and me as well, what your schedule looks like this year, kind of some of the highlights, some of the games you've got circled, maybe some of the tournaments you'll be able to go to within the season.
Well, I think, we're starting out with the scrimmage that first week. Next week we start season, and Friday we'll start with the scrimmage, which is a great opportunity for us to, again, get the girls out there and try some different things. And then we open with the Bismarck Invite. And that's always a fun tournament. It gives us an opportunity to go out and play different teams that we normally don't see during the season. And the West, they have a little bit different style of volleyball, and it's always fun to play them. They're very competitive and tough, and it's a good start to kind of assess where we're at when you play those other teams and then get back in the gym and work. And I think we open up with West Fargo and Davies, and so we just jump right into some really tough matches right away.
Coach, anything else you want to mention to our listeners and viewers about West Fargo Sheyenne volleyball this season?
Oh, it's going to be a fun year. I think it's going to be exciting to see what kind of team we are mid-season and into the end of the season. So I'm really looking forward to working with these girls. So they're a great group of girls.
Should be a fun season. We're looking forward to following the high school sports season all across the board this fall and beyond on your live events. And maybe we'll get a Sheyenne volleyball game here in the near future. That's head coach Leah Newton joining us on the Your Live Event Coaches Show. Leah, thanks so much. Best of luck to you and the girls this season. And we'll probably see you down the road sometime.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Hillsboro Economic Development Committee provides information and a support for small businesses. Experience Hillsboro. More at 104.
Well, something new this year on the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show is a senior spotlight where we'll talk with athletes across the state of North Dakota and Minnesota. And first up is a senior heading this year to Northern Cass. That is Josie Jensen. And Josie, I went back and looked at your state tournament for just the numbers that you had. We talked with Angie Johnson about this as well. 41 kills, 32 blocks in 3 matches. That is phenomenal. I know some of those were record-breaking performances as well, but what do you remember in your time in Bismarck last year winning a second programmed, volleyball championship in the state?
I mean, it was all a blur. Like, it went really fast, but looking back on it now, I mean, I remember that week being super long, but I mean, it was the best time I've ever had with my team, and it was just such a great memory.
And one thing I remember you talking about in post-game after the championship was done, you kind of hugged some of the seniors that were there, and you said, this is for you guys, knowing how close you were, you as a sophomore, them as a junior the year before, to get back there. How fun was that to see just your teammates, embellish and enjoy, being a state champion as long as you did as well here, Josie?
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, it was just a great send-off for them. I was always really close with that class, so it was good to just get it done for them.
And moving into this year, it's not like the cupboard's completely bare. Even though you lose 6 players, sometimes you'd say might not be a lot of rotational players coming back, but you got about 3-4 other girls who have played varsity at some level or at some point here. So going into this year here, Josie, what's some expectations early on in the year, knowing that you might have to find a different rotation. You might have to find who 1 or 2, leaders are on the court compared to last year. Just what's the expectations once you kind of get rolling here later in August?
I mean, we're definitely not done as a team. Like, we still have a lot of people coming back, like you said, but I mean, people are going to have to step into new roles that they maybe aren't used to, but I think that just takes time. And I think we'll grow as a group, which I'm really excited for.
And it's not like you lose one setter in Noel, but you still have a setter in Addie. How fun is that for a hitter to know that you have some rapport and repetitions already with a setter like Addie Russ heading into the season?
It's so great. I mean, our connection is just not matched very often. Like, you can't really find that or replicate that in just anybody. So I'm really happy that she's returning, and I think we'll have a great season together.
Take us through what's it like being under Angie Johnson, the coaching staff there at Northern Cass. What's it like being a player as a Northern Cass Jaguar in that volleyball program?
She's definitely intense, but I think she pushes us as a program, not just like a varsity team, but she really puts effort into all of the younger people, which is why I think we've been so successful for so long. And I mean, her assistants, Beth and Jamie, are just as great. Like, they have different skills that they bring to the table, and I know we were all really appreciative of those three getting us through the year last year.
Take us through what's it like playing with the bullet on your back, or the bullseye, so to speak, on your back. You've been that way in Region 1. You know it's going to happen this year, being the defending state champs. Does it add any pressure, or does it add a little hunger as you kind of go into this season here, Josie?
I mean, it's definitely like a goal to get back to where we were, but we've always known that like we're the team to beat in our region. But I think you kind of have to put that in the back of your mind and just focus one game at a time and keep getting things done.
All right, so one more question on the volleyball court. I'm sure you've been asked this a lot since you started playing varsity. Where are you headed off to next once everything is all said and done? Is there anyone in particular that you committed to, or is it still, hey, looking for some options, maybe wanting to play volleyball, maybe just wanting to be a student? Where are you at right now with your process here, Josie?
I mean, playing college volleyball would be so fun, and I'm just keeping my options open right now. There are a couple schools that have reached out, but I'm just trying to find the best fit for myself. And even if that doesn't involve college volleyball, I mean, everything will work itself out.
Okay, so take volleyball aside. What are some classes you've enjoyed most at your time at Northern Cass, and what's something you want to kind of study and get into, so to speak, a year from now, wherever you might end up in college?
I've always really enjoyed like biologies and anatomy classes, so I was really thinking about going into healthcare, majoring in nursing probably, and then eventually attending PA school.
Is this something in terms of a school? Is there a particular event that you're looking forward to? Is it the first week of classes? Is it homecoming? Is it something in between? What's something as a student at Northern Cass you look forward to the most kind of during your time?
I'm kind of biased, but I'm always looking forward to the volleyball games because they're pretty fun. But as a student, just in general, I just look forward to the first weekend being back with everybody in one spot. I mean, it's always good to see people that you haven't seen in a while.
I've asked you this question before once or twice, and it's kind of goes back to volleyball. What's sweeter, a game set ending kill or a game set ending block at the net when you kind of hear that double thud and you get the block? Which one's better, the block or the kill?
I love the block every time. I'll take that every time.
Are you superstitious at all, Josie, when you go into a volleyball match? Do you have to, put the left shoe on before the right, or listen to certain music before you finally get to the actual part of the volleyball match? Superstitious at all for you?
I'm not at all, really. Angie is superstitious enough for all of us, I think, but I'm really, really not. I just like to focus on what's going on.
Hey, Josie, we thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to your upcoming senior year, both on the court and in the classroom, and we'll see you at a volleyball court near you pretty soon.
All right, thank you so much.
Live, work, and play here in Hillsboro, North Dakota. The Hillsboro Economic Development Committee can assist you with information and support for business and housing. Experience Hillsboro. More at 104.
Part of our YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show, we head to the hardwood now, and join us is the head coach for the Northern Cass Jaguars on the volleyball side. That is Angie Johnson. And Angie, it must be a fun off season for a coach, even though I know you do a ton of summer workouts and planning individuals and teams, but knowing that you're coming off a state championship run, able to defeat Linton HMB in a thrilling title game from the Bismarck Event Center. Let's just put a bow on last season. What did last season mean for the program and the community and the athletes on the volleyball squad?
It's still undescribable. I still can't describe how it feels, but I mean, that was from the second I stepped in those doors as the head coach. Like, that obviously was my goal. And then that senior class that we had last year, I could see it from their freshman and sophomore season that it was going to be a special group. So I'm just happy that we were able to send them off with that and all the hard work that they put in.
Yeah, as we kind of dubbed them on your live event, the senior six, as the year continued a little bit, which means if 6 players left, well, who's left in the cupboard sometimes in volleyball? Well, you got a good chunk to start with. Obviously, someone who broke a ton of records at the state tournament last year at the net, Josie Jensen. I went back 32 blocks and 41 kills over 3 matches. That was pretty good in Bismarck. But then you still got an Addie Rust, a Hayden Crockett, a Tesh Dahlberg, an Ellie Lucas. As much as this team lost, Angie, you could argue there's still a good chunk of varsity experience returning for this season for your club.
Yeah, we do. Luckily, I feel blessed that we do. I mean, yeah, a solid 4 for sure returning, and then with Tess included in that, getting some minutes in the state championship. But you know, the bench players, they got to play against those varsity starters all year, so they know what it takes, and they've played against that competition. So I think it's not the skill, it's not any of that. I know I'm very confident in all of them that they're going to be able to step on the court and be able to play. It's just getting the nerves and getting used to this new group. It's a new dynamic, so just trying to figure that out.
How much have you talked about the last couple of years, Angie, having the bullet on your back? Obviously, in Region 1, you've gone through that, but now making it to the state championship game back-to-back years and being the defending state champ, you know, people are going to really circle Northern Cass volleyball on their schedule. Do you talk about it a lot, or is it, hey, it's a new group of girls, it's a new rotation? How much do you go back and forth with the squad throughout the season?
It's kind of both. I mean, I don't really talk about a bullseye per se, unless, you know, we're kind of well into the season. But this year it's just trying to talk, like, we're a new group. We have to figure out our dynamic. I know, like you said, we lost a lot of seniors, which lost a lot of leadership last year. So we're still throughout the summer just trying to find out who those leaders are going to be. And it's kind of a lot of different people are trying to step up right now. So it'll be interesting. But I think once we get into the season, we always try to preach, you know, one practice, one game, one tournament, all of that at a time, because anything can change throughout the season. You can get to the tournament and not have a very good tournament, and now you're not going to state. So I think just trying to take one day at a time and just focus on the little things that we need to focus on to get to our ultimate goal, is to obviously win state.
And for you, we're going to start with Josie Jensen, because that's what everyone's scouting report is going to say. Wherever Josie is, we got to have a double block up there, or make sure if it's tight to the net, know that she could have her hands there for a block. What does someone as the caliber, figuratively and literally, her size, what she can do in terms of her wingspan at the net, but what does she bring to this year's team as a senior coming into it here, Angie?
Well, she's always been our energy source. We always joke about it as in her freshman year, we pulled her up on varsity I told her to be goofy. You're probably not going to play, but I need you to be goofy. I need you to be silly. I need you to make people laugh. And that's kind of what she's done the last 3 years that she's played, and obviously contributed more on the court too. But, you know, she works really, really hard. I know she's tall, and sometimes I feel like some people just chalk up her height to, you know, all the blocks and everything that she gets, but she works really hard. We work a lot on technique with her. And she's constantly trying to improve, just not as a middle hitter, but as a right side or an outside. And obviously she played back row last year. So being able to serve and being able to pass, and just a really well-rounded volleyball player. So that's still the focus for her. We need her to be a threat from anywhere on the court, whether it's in the back row or up at the net, anywhere. So it's just trying to get her comfortable everywhere on the court.
Well, let's go from your big hitter in Josie Jensen. Anytime in volleyball, talking with coaches, having a good setter, obviously a good defensive specialist or libero, that's always part of the game. And it's nice that you have Addie Russ, who split time with Noelle Erickson in your system just specifically last year. So how much does having an experienced setter just kind of help the rest of the squad throughout the season coming up here, Angie?
It's super important. I mean, her having the experience, you know, 2 years in a row, being on the championship court too, just being able to be that guidance for any of our younger setters. And obviously over the last couple of years, she's really gotten smart with her decisions and setting and who to set and when to set and all of that. So I'm just looking forward to seeing her grow this year too.
And same thing, kind of Ellie Lucas a little bit. I mean, she puts up some pretty good stats, even though it might be quiet sometimes. You might look at the stat and go, she got 6 blocks and 6 kills. It doesn't feel like that because of what maybe Hallie did last year or Josie and company. So what is Ellie's role going to be coming into this season?
She's definitely stepping into a bigger role this year for sure. I know like you said, she's got some good numbers, but they seem to be a little quiet. So I think this year, obviously, we're going to lean on her to be one of those all-around leaders, front row, back row, all of that, which I think over the last 4 years, she's really worked hard on. And that's really been a focus for us, is to get her prepared for her senior year to be able to do that. And so even this summer, she's really stepped up, and I've seen a lot of improvement from last season into this season as well.
Take us through Region 1. If I take Northern Cass out of it, I know there's some new dynamics. For example, Central Cass with a new volleyball coach, no DeConte Smith, who's a huge athlete there. You take a look at what Weimar-Lidgerwood has with Pitts and Kaczynski. Well, Kaczynski's gone now. So everybody every season loses maybe a different coaching staff or some new seniors. But in Region 1 this year, Angie, who's going to be some other teams that you're going to kind of circle and say, okay, when we play them, it's probably going to be a gritty, tough, whether it's a 3-set to 5-set kind of a volleyball match?
You know, I always say Central Cass and Kindred. I feel like those are just big rivals, and we always play them in the same weeks. So it's always a big week for us. But I think Oak Grove and I think Weimar-Lidgerwood are going to be, I think it's going to be kind of us 5 at the top. So hopefully we can, I know we play Oak Grove and Weimar-Lidgerwood right away at the beginning of the season, which I can't decide if I like or not, but we'll see. But I think those are going to be kind of the top ones this year.
And speaking of early on the season, you get to host another volleyball tournament to kind of open up the year. How much fun is that as a coach, or how much is it, okay, did we have our rotation? How much are you kind of tinkering, or is it, let's just get the girls out there, let's get them to play against someone else that's not in, gold and black after a couple weeks of practice? Is it a catch-22, Angie, or is it just a ton of excitement from your side going in that opening weekend?
It's fun. We also have our JV playing in it too, so it gets a little difficult when you have those floaters going back and forth. So that's kind of the main thing. But yeah, it's still a time to try out different relationship or rotations and figure out what relationships are building on the court. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's fun. It's nice to see teams from across the state too, because we'll see them at Valley City, and this year we're going to Des Lacs, Burlington. So we'll get to see a lot of those teams, but it's nice to see them at least at the beginning of the season and see how we kind of compare to other teams.
Final thing for you here, Angie, from a coaching point of view, what do you enjoy most about the game once you get to a particular, whether it's a Tuesday night, Thursday, or, a weekend tournament? What's one thing that you most look forward to throughout the season as a coach for Northern Cass?
Honestly, just the relationships with the players. I enjoy, they're so funny, and they say some pretty wild stuff. So it's just fun to build those relationships. Obviously, I feel like I'm a pretty relaxed coach. Maybe they would tell you different, but I feel like I'm pretty relaxed. So it's really fun to just get to know everybody and get those inside jokes going, and then just try to have some fun at the games at the end of the day.
Angie, as always, thanks so much for your time. Best of luck this season, and we'll see you at a volleyball court here soon.
Thank you.
Hey, look, I found Bigfoot. How tall is he? What? No, not that Bigfoot. The Bigfoot Trail. The Bigfoot Trail? Yeah, it's the Trail County Parks and Walking Challenge. All you have to do is visit at least 10 of 12 parks listed on the clue sheet, answer questions about each park, and return the completed sheet to the Trail District Health Unit by September 30th. Do I get anything if I complete the challenge? Yes, you get a free t-shirt and other participation prizes. Get your sheet on the Trail District Health Unit website and get your feet moving on the Bigfoot Trail.
Bank of North Dakota wants you to be confident when it's time to make student loan decisions. Visit bnd.nd.gov/confident to calculate the maximum amount of student loan debt that is recommended based on your career choice. You can also learn how to apply for financial aid and get tips to cut education expenses. Visit bnd.nd.gov/confident today.
Treat yourself to a great career at American Crystal Sugar Company. Team up with quality people making quality products. Full-time and year-round in a stable business. With great pay and benefits including time off available from day one. American Crystal Sugar Company invests in you to promote your continued growth and career advancement. Grow your career doing your best work within the world's best beet sugar company. Apply online today at AmericanCrystalCareers.com.
We'll close out the show this week with West Fargo Packers soccer coach Matthew Crawford. But before then, let's sit down and talk with Kirk Zink from Hillsboro-Central Valley Cross Country with our very own Joel Ansello.
Welcome back to the YLE Coaches Show, brought to you by the Hillsboro Economic Development Corporation. I'm Joe Lancello, joined now by Kirk Zink, the coach of the Hillsboro-Central Valley boys and girls cross country teams. We're recording this before the start of practice, but as we look forward to the season, Kirk, how many folks do you expect coming out for cross country this year?
Last handful of years, we're always hoping to get 50, and I think we're going to be close to that. We've got a ton of 7th, 8th, 9th graders. And fortunately for us, we've got a load of kids coming over from Central Valley again. We've got a handful of new kids coming out. We graduated a really, really good group of boys last year. Really good leaders, hard to replace, impossible to replace. But in terms of numbers, we lost 4 or 5 kids and picked up 7, 8, 9 kids. So nice to see. Like I said, hard to ever know on exact numbers when the school year hasn't even started and we're a week and a half from practice starting. But we spend a ton of time getting together in the summer. We've been together 16, 18, 20 times over the course of the summer. So we've seen a lot of kids, and I think we've seen 45, 46 kids and a couple others that we think we're going to get a chance to get out once the school year gets rolling.
Give me just kind of a reminder of people who did well last year for you.
Yeah. So on the boys' side, like I said, we graduated 2 really good seniors. Impossible to replace. We graduated a bunch of them, but we graduated 2 of them with all region and or all state accolades last year. But Nico, my son, who will be a sophomore, he was an all region kid last year. He's put in a ton of miles this summer. I'm really excited for him. Excited to see how that goes. And then obviously Christian Brist on the boys' side. Christian's got a chance to be, realistically, he's one of the best boys we've ever had. He's one of the best kids we've ever had. Absolutely a contender for an individual state title on the boys' side, the boys' Class B side. Really, really good. But outside of that, we've got a slew of really good kids, progressively getting better and better as time goes on. But they were always stuck behind Jake Wright and Henry Nelson and John Calder and some of those guys we graduated last year. So they never cracked into our top 5, never had a chance to, not for a lack of effort, that's for sure. But just really nice depth over the last handful of years. But Lex Ellingson is a kid that, had you told me 3 or 4 years ago that he was going to be in our top 5, I probably would have called your bluff. But fun kid, hardworking kid, he's got a crazy motor. And then we've got a handful of sophomores that are really good. Like I said, Nico, my son, is the sophomore. Seth Smallbeck is a kid that's really been growing, had a really nice track season, coming off last year's really good cross season. So he'll definitely be a top 5 for us. Rylan Buchholz is a stud, probably one of the most naturally athletic kids that we've had in a long time. Really, really good sophomore. Got a new kid out, Justin Torrell, that had a terrific track season for us. Now we got him. He's going to come run cross with us. That's going to be a lot of fun. There's a ton of them. One of the biggest, Trey Johnson. Trey Johnson's an 8th grader that we hoped to get out last year as a 7th grader. We thought we could, and we did. On that same token, it was unbelievable how good that kid was. Been quite a while, back to Chase Fossum and beyond, since we've seen a kid that smooth and that natural and that fluid and that kind of spring. He has got distance running potential like nobody I've seen in a long time. It's unbelievable. Not only is it easy and smooth and efficient, A lot of times you'll get kids like that where things are too easy and they don't work very hard. This kid's nuts. Elite level swimmer. So right now he's back and forth between swim meets, swim practices, getting in some big mileage with us. And God, he's going to be fun to watch over the years. He's going to be an absolute blast. But we've got so much depth beyond that. We're real fortunate with the number of kids we got. Not a lot of Class B programs can put 24, 26 boys together. But the one thing we are missing this year is a lot of that upper junior, senior leadership. We just don't have a lot of it. We've got a ton of really good 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th graders. On that same token, on the boys' side, those aren't always your best kids, because the maturity has to kick in. They got to get bigger and stronger before they can compete with the older kids, So transition to the girls' side where you can do that. 7th, 8th, 9th graders, they can be highly, highly successful. And we've got a slew of them too. Our girls last year were 3rd in state, which was an unbelievable state tournament. We knew they had a chance to be top 2 or 3, but maybe a slim chance. And they ran terrific. Had a absolutely killer state meet. Led by a couple, our absolute horses are Mila Calder, who's going to be a junior, and then Shacey Johnson, who's going to be a sophomore. Those two kids clearly are our leaders, our top kids. I wish we could get more vocal leadership out of some of those kids, but two really cool seniors, terrific personalities. Mallory Elfson and Monsi Garza are two seniors that'll be that coach on the field and working hard and pushing kids and keeping kids positive and motivated and smiling. But then from there, like I said, Mila Calder is an absolute horse. The mileage she's put in this summer has been so fun to watch. Had some real ugly injury issues over the last 2-3 seasons between cross and track. So it's nice to see her healthy and able to get a bunch of mileage in. She's going to be an absolute horse this fall, and I'm excited to watch that. Like I said, Shacey Johnson she's a returning All-State kid. Came out of nowhere last year in late October and dropped a terrific race in Jamestown at the state meet and was all state for us. And then Lily Calder, who is Mila's younger sister, was an all-region runner last year and primed for huge things. She's one that is going to be really, really good when she realizes that she's really, really good, and then shoot from there. We've got a little bit like the boys' side. We've got a ton of depth. We've got some good young kids. And by young, I mean young and little and teeny and tiny. And Kimber Walker is going to be a stud for us, one of our hardest working kids. Aslan Johnson is a 8th grader, one of last year's huge 7th grade crop that's really, really done well. Like I said, Aslan, Leah Johnson, Leah Sowery, is going to be really good. Crazy to visit with her and see how positive and hardworking she is. Alex Sajelski is another one that again, just out of nowhere. And those kids they're fun to watch. It's fun to watch these kids get into cross and not realize how tough it is, battle through that first month or so, and then go, hey, this isn't really that hard. And I'm pretty darn good at it. And it's been a blast. And this team's going to be a lot of fun to work with. I'm awfully excited for the season.
It's interesting. We think about the mental part of cross country as trying to make it to the next obstacle, the next hill, or what have you. But I'm guessing another obstacle, or maybe not an obstacle, is just the realization that, hey, I can hang with these people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's just it, and that's the biggest hurdle for all these kids. A kid like Christian Brist never had confidence issues, never did, and that's a positive. But on the same token, you get a lot of these other kids that, I can kind of pick on Nico because I do all the time at home. As a sophomore, an issue for him has just been confidence and realizing, hey, it doesn't matter if that kid up there is a sophomore or junior or senior, or if he's a 7th or 8th grader. He's running 5,000 meters in the hills and I'm running 5,000 meters in the hills. And, just as soon as a kid like that pops one really, really good race, posts an elite level time and maybe beats some kids that he didn't think he could beat, Now, all of a sudden, you've got a new bar set as far as confidence. And once you have that, you shouldn't go backwards, and I tell the kids all the time, once you hammer that big PR or you beat somebody that you didn't think you could beat, the positive is you can puff your chest and brag about it. The negative is we expect you to do it all the time now. It's got to be the kind of thing where it's got to be progression and progression and progression. Some programs do this for fun, and we do it for fun, but we do it to get better and better and better and to peak at the end of the year. And these kids have heard so many times, we've got so many of those kids that confidence is it. Mila and Lily Calder, both on the girls' side. Soon as they hammer one good race, that's when their season starts. They can have 2 or 3 or 4 poor races to start the year, and it doesn't affect a thing. I don't care. But as soon as they have that first one, it's on. And now they get it, and now they're positive, and now they're excited, and it flows from there. But you're right. I mean, you spend the summer dealing with the physical part. You spend the fall dealing with the mental part. And by the end of the year, it's a 50-50 5K race. Everybody's in shape by late October. It's just who's mentally the toughest. You're exactly right, Joe.
And something else you mentioned, Kirk, about the running in the summertime. We may not think of cross country as we do basketball or football, where you would go to a camp over the summer and try to get better. I'm guessing there are camps for cross country, but also it's just the work that nobody sees you do.
Exactly. And it's not exciting. It's not fun. Some of our higher gold kids, some of the kids that have been the veterans that have got some of the accolades that want to be better. I mean, those kids are going to put in 40 miles this week. They're going to put in 40 miles this week. They're going to run every day. A couple of those days they're going to run twice, and we're at that point in the year where you're building and building and building that base mileage so that when the season starts, we don't have to do that, and it's not all the kids doing it. But it's the kids that want to be really good by September and October that are doing it. And you're right. It's not fun. Or for me, it wouldn't be fun. I know we get a lot of these kids that, Nico and a couple of his buddies last night, they went out for 9, 10, 11 miles at 9 o'clock at night, and for them, for kids that are built like that and have that kind of motor, it is fun. They get together, and if you can turn a long run into something that's fun and it's enjoyable, then you're about 5 notches ahead of a lot of the others, So, it is, it's one of those kind of things that, some of these kids go on vacation, and part of their vacation is getting up in the morning and getting their miles in, or before bed, getting their miles in, or doing their bands, or getting their lifting session in, or whatever else. And like I said, some kids don't. And that's a choice they make. But I'll tell you, it makes August and September awful, because we're going to run practices geared towards the kids that are ready to go. Those that aren't, it creates a little bit of work, and let's preface, that's for the older experienced kids. You got brand new 7th grade or brand new 8th grade kids coming in. We don't expect them to be Christian Brist or Mila Calder, those types of kids. We don't, for them, it's about the fun and the enjoyment and being part of the team. And we have a lot of fun. We do a lot of goofy stuff, and we get to do a lot of stuff that a lot of programs don't. And shoot, we get to do a lot of stuff that Hillsboro kids don't. We got overnight trips that we get to do, and it's a lot of fun. I'm awfully excited about it.
Come to think of it, you've got a trip, I think, Labor Day weekend in Yankton, South Dakota, right?
Yeah, we leave town a lot. I've got a flexible schedule. I've got 2 unbelievable coaches, two coaches that I've been really fortunate over the years. Have some unbelievable assistant coaches, and the ability for me to work around my work schedule, for our school to allow us to pull out a day of school to spend a night. Our assistant coaches are taking days off from work, and to be able to do that kind of stuff is awesome. And it sets a bar for what the kids want to do. It's and not to pick on some of these other programs, but there's some programs that put their schedule together and they go to Northwood, and they go to Mayville, and they go to Larimore, and they go to Castleton, and they make the round through the eastern part of the state. And again, I'm just blessed that our school allows us to do other things. So there's no in any way knock at that, because there's some unbelievable programs that don't leave the state. But for me, I look at it and say, hey, if we can make things as fun as possible, kids might forget that cross country's tough. And they might put up with some tough stuff just because we do get to do a couple of these overnighters and a couple of those things. We're pretty fortunate from a community and school standpoint that they allow us to do it.
Now, the Borough cross country teams, I think you have your only home meet of the season, the first one?
Yeah.
On the 26th of August?
Yep. It's always been that first weekend. Year in and year out, we debate whether we change it or not. And the reason for that is this. Jamestown hosts the state meet at the end of the year. And some teams like to see that course. They like to see it in advance. They like to get a meet on it. They like to practice, whatever else. They host a regular season meet on the same day as us. Sometimes it turns into a positive. Sometimes it turns into a negative. We don't maybe get as many teams as we used to prior to that schedule. But on the same token, there used to be a point in time when we'd have Central and Red River and Davies and all these teams show up to our home meet at the beginning of the year, which is great. But on the same token, how bad do you want to get thumped on day one when you got brand new kids that aren't in peak shape yet? And so it's kind of nice to see some more of the local teams, some more of the region teams, maybe a little bit smaller, maybe a little more of our competition level of where we want to be at the end of August. But yeah, it's a fun meet. Music blaring and good concessions, and yeah, it's a lot of fun around the golf course.
Moose River Golf Course, 10 a.m. on Saturday, August 26th, when the Borough cross country teams have their first meet of the season. Kirk, Zink, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for the time.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Joe. Anytime we get a chance to pump cross country, we'll do it.
All righty. We'll be back with more of the Year Live Event Coaches Show right after this.
Hillsboro Economic Development Committee provides information and a support for small businesses. Experience Hillsboro. More at 104.
James Martin's Your Live event on the Coaches Show here this week. Please be joined by the very new head coach, not new coach necessarily, but new head coach of West Fargo High School boys soccer, and Matt Crawford. And Matt, thanks for coming along to the Coaches Show.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Matt, let's dive right into it. Quite a run last year. You were part of it as an assistant coach as West Fargo claimed the boys' high school title. No two classes yet, but maybe the way the game's growing, maybe we'll get to two classes. But
it'd be a good thing to see. I mean, the way the North Dakota's growing.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about your reactions to the run to the title and what it meant to you.
Oh, that was last year. That was just a dream. I think coming into the season, I had talked with Coach Foss about even just going back for the season. It took a little bit of talking into, but I think going and talking with some of these guys, getting to know some of the players in the team, it was wonderful. And sure, the season never started the way we thought it would. We had a rocky start, and we were just fighting just to even get to state after the first 8 games. But the guys picked it up. They picked up their standard. They held each other accountable. And I think going to state, that was probably everything went our way. The guys did the system that we wanted. They bought in. They did what we asked, and they executed everything we wanted for them to do perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite a run to the finish, and obviously looking to try to do it again this year. Tell me about the crew you have coming back. Who comes back? Who's new? Who's to watch?
Oh, there's a good amount of guys coming back. We have a lot of guys that were contributors throughout the build-up last year. We're going to be fairly young this year. There's a very large amount of juniors in this class, a couple seniors, bringing some leadership in, but bringing back some good characters. Our 3 captains this year, Ben Gora, Jonas Venby, and Andrew Knutsvig. Those 3 are going to be big contributors for the team. I'm expected to play a lot of minutes and hold everyone else on the field accountable for what they're going to be doing. The big addition coming back again is going to be Bonfils Loria in goal. He was a massive contributor in goal last year in the state title run. Conceded 1 goal in the state final against Davies, and he started picking up his play. So we're expecting big things from him this year. The new thing's going to be this year is our attack. We're losing 3 guys on our attack, so we're going to have to come with new guys, new attackers all this year. But the same thing that West Fargo Packers have done throughout their history, it's always going to be the next guy up. 3 guys leave, 3 next guys in. Somebody's got to step up and be the guy. So,
looking ahead to the schedule, what jumps out at you? Any particular games, any particular matchups, any particular things you want to see on the schedule this year?
The big one that I've got circled already is the first game of the year for us. We have a rematch against Fargo Davies at West Fargo. Same thing as last year. 2 new head coaches, me stepping in, Adam Haskins stepping in at Fargo Davies. It's going to be a great matchup, and like always, we always circle the West Fargo Sheyenne games as that's our big rival. So I mean, that's always going to be a heated contest. Those are the 3 games I have circled right now that I want to see us compete at a really high level.
Matt, as a new head coach, not a new coach necessarily to the area, but a new head coach, you might be introducing yourself to some new people out there. Tell us a bit about yourself and about your background in this growing sport of soccer.
So I started coaching just about right out of high school. Soccer was always such a big thing to me. I started coaching right away at West Fargo Soccer Club. I had the privilege to coach with Ben Patry. He's the Moorhead boys head coach. That was a great experience, got me started. He was also the one that kind of got me into the high school scene at Fargo North. I got to coach with John Melendez, now the Sheyenne boys head coach. So I've been working very much for a long time under head coaches around the area, guys that have been able to take up that role, and it's been great mentorship for me. Coached probably since 2011, 2010 in the high school scene. Had a 3 or 4 year stint at Concordia with the women's program there. Served as goalie coach and assistant coach under Becca Quigley and Kevin Roos. So that was a great experience for myself. But then I think somewhere in between there, probably from 2014 to 2016, I got a chance to work with Tri-City Storm Soccer Club. I was a youth program director there and tournament director there. So that provided me with a good opportunity to see what the build-up in our area, how we created our soccer players in the area from the lowest ages of about 3-year-olds all the way up to when we had let them out to college at 18. So I got to see the whole picture of where kids were starting, help develop that, and then it helped us produce some of these players that are in the high school scene now. So some of the players I even have in my program, I coached them when they were 10, 11 years old. So it's really nice for me to see what their end product is like now and how far they've grown. So some of these guys I had at 10, I never would have imagined the player they are now. So it's really nice to see this picture they are now.
Gosh, that's fantastic. And I mean, I wanted to get your perspective since you've been around the FM soccer area for a long time now, or at least for about a decade now, with the movement of guys like Lionel Messi coming to the U.S. and playing for Inter Miami. That's the biggest headline in American soccer right now. From that scale to the FM side of things, how have you seen this sport in general grow, and where do you think it's going to go?
Oh, I mean, it's grown immensely. I'd even say even since you go back to like the David Beckham years at LA Galaxy, when he first came over, that was the first big push we had. There was that big jump of people or student athletes that were looking to get into the game then. And we're seeing the big jump right now, the same thing when Messi's coming over. And it's really nice to see him come over, especially after the World Cup. You're getting these interests from all these younger athletes that are trying to get in the game. And we're seeing a big push at the youngest ages right now. So the numbers at U10s, U11s around the area in the club scene is probably some of the biggest that they've seen in years. I know at Tri-City, they probably have 3 or 4 teams of U10s. They're 50 plus there. And I don't know if I've ever seen numbers that big in our area. So it's already showing in our area that there is more than enough kids, more than plenty kids wanting to join, and that numbers are just continuing to grow. So the love of the game is growing, and it's showing why soccer is the most played sport in the world, especially when we get some of these athletes that are looking to come over and just show what good soccer can really look like. So proud. I'm really happy Messi came over. I'm waiting to go watch him at the Minnesota United games here eventually, but those ticket prices are going to be a little spendy.
That would certainly be a sight to see. Maybe we can get them over to North Dakota, come up a little bit.
That might be pushing it. That'd be a dream.
Well, I tell you what, Matt, anything else you want to mention to our viewers about West Fargo Packer soccer or soccer in general in the FM community?
I'd say with West Fargo Packer soccer, it's going to be an absolute joy to watch. We're going to be a very entertaining team this year, very high paced. And we're looking to be the first West Fargo Packer team to go back-to-back at state. So lots of teams have won. We've got 5 stars now. We're looking to add a 6th this year. So the guys on our team know the standard. They know what I expect. There's been great standards put in place from Coach Mo and Coach Foss through the years. So I'm glad to carry that on. But these guys have worked really hard this summer, and I look forward to see what's going on. Soccer in the area, I just want to see it continue to grow, want it to continue to get better, and see where this can eventually take place and how far we can get North Dakota soccer to grow.
Matt Crawford, first-year head coach of the West Fargo Packer High School boys soccer team, joining us on the Your Live Event Coaches Show. Coach Crawford, thanks so much, and best of luck this season.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, James.
That does it this week for the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show, as presented to you by the Hillsboro Economic Development Corporation. Join us every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock on YourLiveEvent.com for the next edition of the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show. I'm Chase Miller. Have a good rest of your evening.